Can the RX 9070 XT deliver a pleasant ray tracing experience in the latest games when paired with a 4K monitor? Let's find out. To test this, I paired the Gigabyte Gaming OC version of the 9070 XT with the Ryzen 7 9800X3D CPU as part of the Be Quiet PC build powered by MSI, and we'll be experiencing the games today on one of the best monitors for the job. This is the MSI 272URX 240Hz QD OLED monitor. If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. Let's start with the latest major AAA release, Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's been, well, almost a month since it launched, and unfortunately FSR 4 is still not available in this game, as well as in some other games that were promised to support FSR 4. Yeah, that is unfortunate, but it is what it is. We are at 4K resolution, native. We'll take a look at FSR resolution upscaling later, and frame generation is off. As for the graphics settings, I think we should just skip to the optimized settings. There is no reason to actually try maxed out settings, unless the optimized settings provide a very good experience, a very high FPS, then we'll check out the absolutely maximum settings. But even with the optimized settings, they are designed to deliver a very high graphics quality. Some of these are not even lowered. For example, this one right here, texture pool, it stays at ultra high, and the rest are high, very high, and high mix, basically. Yeah, very nice settings. The game looks great using these. Let's jump in. The performance is actually not too bad for the native 4K resolution experience. 30 plus FPS consistently. Yeah, this is promising. And as I mentioned, the game looks beautiful. Ray tracing is enabled for both lighting as well as reflections. Let's use AMD's FSR upscaling to boost that FPS. This game uses FSR 3.1, and let's go for the quality mode, okay? No frame generation for now. In terms of performance, this is already pretty good. 50 plus FPS consistently. The only problem is that we're using FSR 3.1, which is not ideal, especially in 2025, where DLSS 4 as well as FSR 4 are available. Well, not in this game. FSR 4 is still not available, even via the Adrenaline app override. AMD just didn't bother adding the game to the override whitelist for some reason, even after 3+ weeks since its release. That is not normal in my opinion. AMD should move faster. As a result, the image quality is still pretty bad. As you know, with FSR 3.1, yeah, it's not good. Although it must be noted that the image quality comments that I'm making are only relevant when you compare the latest FSR and DLSS to the earlier FSR 3.1 version that this game currently uses. If you haven't experienced those, FSR 3.1 on quality mode on a 4K screen actually looks playable. I mean, yes, it's not ideal, but in a pinch, you can still play the game. It's not like it's absolutely horrendous. It's very different compared to what FSR 3.1 provides at 1440p and 1080p resolutions. Yeah, that experience is absolutely horrible. I do not want to use FSR at those resolutions, but quality mode on a 4K screen is somewhat acceptable. But then again, I've tasted FSR 4 quality, and I've tasted DLSS 4 quality, and I'm telling you, after you've tried that, it is extremely difficult to accept the image quality delivered by FSR 3.1. It looks like we have to reduce the upscaling quality a little bit more to get to that 60 plus FPS. Let's go ahead and select the balanced mode. That gets us extremely close to the 60 FPS target. Very nice indeed. We could lower the resolution upscaling quality even more to get an even higher FPS, but even FSR 3.1 balanced mode looks, yeah, it doesn't look that good. Definitely starting to see some of that shimmering and ghosting, unpleasantness. I think the best action to increase the image fluidity from here is to use frame generation instead of lowering the resolution upscaling quality. Because we already have close or even above 60 FPS in most scenes, then that is enough to enjoy frame generation. Let's go ahead and enable that now. In terms of image fluidity, this is a great experience. The controls feel responsive, the gameplay feels smooth, 100 plus FPS on the screen. Very nice indeed. However, yeah, I really wish we had FSR 4 in this game because it looks absolutely amazing, at least in other games where I experienced it. Yeah, I hope that Assassin's Creed Shadows, as well as other new titles, will be adding FSR 4 soon. And I hope that AMD pushes game developers to actually use FSR 4 more often, because that is a very competitive upscaling solution versus DLSS 4. And it's important not only for resolution upscaling purposes, but for anti-aliasing purposes as well. So even if you're playing at native resolution, having FSR 4 in your game is also beneficial, because that way you don't have to use TAA or outdated 3.1 FSR AA. FSR 4 anti-aliasing is on a whole different level. It offers a much better, much cleaner image. It's just nice to have. Let's try one more settings configuration. We'll keep frame generation enabled, and we'll increase the upscaling quality to the quality mode. I think this configuration works absolutely fine, because we already had something like 50 plus FPS baseline without frame generation. And yeah, the controls are not as responsive as when you have a 60 FPS baseline before you enable frame generation, but I think this is acceptable, especially for this kind of game. Yeah, the controls feel fine, no issues. And by using FSR 3.1 quality mode, we're actually getting a much better image quality on the screen. There's just less ghosting. Some of the finer details are better because, yeah, the balanced mode is just destroying a lot of those finer details in foliage, such as grass and leaves. And the ghosting is a big problem, as well as sizzling on some of the textures. On the quality mode, those problems are less pronounced. They're still present, but at least it's not breaking my immersion too bad. If I were playing this game using the RX 9070 XT, then I think that this is the set of settings that I would use. FSR quality mode, frame generation enabled, optimized graphics settings. No reason to enable maxed out graphics settings, because the 9070 XT is just not powerful enough to handle that when paired with a 4K monitor. Monster Hunter Wilds is another recently released game, and luckily this one supports FSR 4, although not natively. You have to go into the AMD Adrenaline app. If you're in the game, then you can just press Alt plus R to bring it up, and then you go and select the game you want. And you just enable FSR 4 in the menu here, and it will show up as active. You can just check it every time you launch the game. It will actually come up in the top right corner. It will say FSR 4, and if you see the green symbol, like this one here, it means that it's active and good to go. We are at 4K resolution using the highest graphics preset and the highest ray tracing preset as well. Although the texture quality is set to high, which is standard in the base game, there is the highest setting, but you have to download the high resolution texture pack for that. I had it installed, but then I decided to delete it because it is useless. It just doesn't work. It's absolutely buggy as heck. It absolutely destroys performance, so I just deleted that thing. It is not worth using until they fix it, and they haven't fixed it yet, as far as I know. But everything else is absolutely maxed out, as you can see over here. Yes, absolutely beautiful. Maximum graphics settings. We are at native resolution using AMD's FSR 4.0. Yes, very nice indeed. We're getting 40 plus FPS at native 4K resolution, but as soon as we start moving around, yeah, when you pan the camera, the FPS drops, and those drops are taking us below 40 FPS, which isn't nice. The image feels choppy, so we'll have to make some adjustments. Let's enable resolution upscaling set to quality mode. This is much better. We're getting 60 plus FPS in some scenes and 50 plus in other scenes. This is already acceptable, I would say, but it doesn't feel great. It's not pleasant. Unfortunately, with this game, yeah, the game itself is actually pushing frame generation on us, so it looks like Capcom have made this game with frame generation in mind. That is unfortunate. But since this game has FSR 4, which delivers a brilliant image quality, we can actually lower that resolution upscaling quality a bit more. Even on balanced mode, FSR 4 looks great on a 4K screen. Let's go ahead and enable that. And that gives us another nice FPS boost. Not a huge one, nothing like going from native to quality mode, but still, it is much nicer. We're now staying closer to 60 FPS in more scenes, but still, during those FPS dips, the image feels choppy. Yeah, the frame pacing is just all over the place in this game. I don't know what the game developers are thinking about. They need to fix this pronto, although this game has been out for well over a month now, and it doesn't look like it's going to get fixed anytime soon. That's why, for now at least, it is best to use frame generation to boost the image fluidity. Let's enable that and take a look at the experience. Yes, this is much nicer, and even though we are still getting those frame rate spikes over there, simply because we have such a high frame rate, the image actually feels smoother. It is not perfect. There are still some massive dips here and there, but at least it feels much nicer than without frame generation enabled. By the way, it's worth noting that we're currently using above 12 gigabytes of memory. Almost 13, actually. Oh, we've just passed 13 gigabytes right there. Very nice. Very nice that this graphics card has 16 gigabytes of memory, so we don't have to worry about memory issues. If you don't want to use frame generation, as I mentioned, you could just lower the resolution upscaling quality. Let's select the performance mode. Because this is FSR 4, it actually is playable now. FSR 3.1 and earlier upscalers in performance mode looked absolutely horrible, but FSR 4 actually delivers a nice and pleasant picture on the screen, especially on a 4K screen right here. Yeah, it is very much enjoyable and playable, I would say. And we're getting more FPS out of it, although we're still seeing some dips to around 60-ish FPS or even lower than that. No? Oh, 59. Yeah, basically we're staying above 60 FPS at all times at this point, but the FPS still feels so choppy for some reason. And it is reflected in the frame rate and frame time graphs. You can see those spikes. Yeah. Without frame generation, this game just feels a little bit choppy. But it is still playable with ray tracing set to the highest quality, so the 9070 XT gets another pass. Nice. Next, let's take a look at Cyberpunk 2077. This game uses a much more higher quality ray tracing effects, especially if we select the absolute maximum quality preset, Ray Tracing Overdrive. It enables path tracing. Yeah, that setting is extremely GPU demanding. Unfortunately, this game doesn't have FSR 4, so the best we can do is use FSR 3. Let's start at quality mode right away, because I'm telling you, path tracing is extremely GPU demanding, so I will be very surprised if we see at least 30 plus FPS even using FSR quality mode. And let's actually lower the crowd density to medium, because that is just an obscene setting that chews through CPUs. Even the 9800X3D, which is one of the fastest CPUs available right now, it can't handle that setting in some cases. So let's just lower that. It's not going to make our experience in the game worse. Look at that. 20 plus FPS. Well, that is quite low. Yeah, it is still quite impressive, because previous generation of AMD graphics cards were just choking on this path tracing set of settings. It was way too much for them to handle. So it is quite impressive to see that the 9070 XT is actually able to deliver even this kind of performance. And let's not forget that we can actually lower the resolution upscaling quality. Let's select the performance mode. This way we're getting above 30 FPS. And if we had FSR 4 in this game, then we would still see, I think, about 30 plus FPS, and the image quality would have been acceptable with FSR 4. By the way, FSR 4 is more costly to run than FSR 3, but still, we would have been able to at least check out the path tracing setting in this game. One downside that I can tell you about right away on AMD GPUs is the noise that is present in the reflections, the ray-traced reflections. Yeah, unfortunately, AMD doesn't have denoisers such as NVIDIA's ray reconstruction. So even with the absolutely maxed out path tracing setting, when in motion, those reflections, they don't look nice at all. So that means that we don't actually have to use the highest ray tracing preset in this game. It is just not beneficial for AMD GPUs at all. Furthermore, I would argue that it's not the best way to enjoy this game on any GPU, with probably the exception of the RTX 5090. Even the 5080, it is best to use ray tracing ultra graphics quality preset that turns off path tracing, but we're still getting all of the beautiful lighting, reflections, shadows, all the good stuff. Let's set the resolution upscaling to native. Okay, let's take a look at native performance. Without resolution upscaling, this game is unplayable, at least while we're using ray tracing, that is. So, resolution upscaling is a must. Let's go ahead and select FSR 3 balanced mode right away. This is pretty good already. Take a look at that, 50 plus FPS, sometimes reaching 60, and we're still getting very high ray tracing effects. Compared to the ray tracing overdrive preset, the reflections still look great. Although it must be noted once more that the reflections don't look as nice as on an NVIDIA graphics card because of the NVIDIA's ray reconstruction feature. This experience is close to playable, but not quite. So we'll have to lower that resolution quality even further. Let's select FSR Performance Mode. There we go, 60 plus FPS consistently. If this game had FSR 4, it would have been perfect. Yeah, the experience would have been so much better. Unfortunately, I don't think that this game will get FSR 4 anytime soon. I haven't seen any news indicating that, and that is something that you have to live with if you go for an AMD graphics card. You just have to live with the fact that FSR 4 will probably never come to the older titles. Yeah, the game developers are just not keen on adding that feature as of right now. AMD is not pushing the game developers to implement it in more games. But in terms of ray tracing performance, as you can see, the RX 9070 XT is very capable, even compared to NVIDIA GPUs. This is a pretty good experience. Yeah, so it has potential, but unfortunately it is held back by the FSR resolution upscaling quality a lot. Let's try one more ray tracing preset, medium, and we'll set FSR to balanced. This preset actually disabled ray traced reflections, so I'm very curious to see how that will affect the overall experience in the game. Okay, the performance is actually not that much better compared to what we had with Ray Tracing Ultra preset. Still 50 plus FPS using FSR balanced mode. So it's not a huge deal, but the reflections are off, ray traced reflections are gone. Indeed, reflections feel a lot worse. Some of them look quite broken, I would say. Yeah, they just don't look as nice. Very low resolution, low quality reflections. And since we are getting about the same performance, I don't think it's worth it. Yeah, at this point, it's best to just keep that ray tracing on Ultra presets and enjoy the game. Well, if you can enjoy the game using the older FSR version. Personally, I don't like it. Good news is that the RX 9070 XT is actually capable of delivering a decent ray tracing experience, even when paired with a 4K monitor. However, it is only achieved by using resolution upscaling, which is an absolute must, and that is the biggest downside of the RX 9070 XT, is while AMD actually released a very good resolution upscaling feature, FSR 4, it is extremely competitive versus DLSS 4, it looks great, but the adoption rate of FSR 4 is absolutely abysmal. New games are coming out without it, and to make matters even worse, AMD is actually very slow at whitelisting some of the older titles that have FSR 3.1 and are eligible to be added to the driver override feature, where you can actually inject FSR 4 officially through the AMD Adrenalin software. We've seen that with Monster Hunter Wilds. In this video, I showed you how to do it. It is a very easy feature to enable, and if AMD added that feature to more games, it would have been nice. Especially newer games that are coming out with FSR 3.1, such as Assassin's Creed Shadows. And it's just breaking my heart. Some of the best Radeon engineers produced this amazing GPU. It works well, performs well, and it's held back by software and some of the other teams that are responsible for actually communicating with the game developers to push them towards adding their features into the game. As it stands right now, I cannot recommend you buy the 9070 XT to experience ray tracing, because there is no FSR 4 in the games, and without it, you're not going to get a good experience. Yeah, the image quality will be absolutely horrible. There's going to be sizzling and ghosting, among other visual issues that are introduced by FSR 3.1 and earlier versions of resolution upscaling technology. That said, AMD can turn things around quickly if they get a grip on the problem plaguing FSR 4 adoption rate. As soon as AMD manages to get FSR 4 into all of the existing games that support it, as well as get game developers to actually add it to new games that are coming out, then I will change my mind. Because under the hood, the 9070 XT is very capable, as we've seen in this video. Even the ray tracing, it can handle it. No problem. That's what I think about this combo. What about you? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to reward my work with a like. I appreciate it a lot. It greatly helps the algorithm to recommend this video to more viewers like you and me. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more videos like this. Furthermore, if you're interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.